Paul Fleischman, your lift manager here at the Tikkun Elevator, Kollel, and we're coming over here to learn the ultimate connection with God, the seven-step guide to Jewish spirituality. And here is a great, great man, relatively Baruch Hashem, young, English-speaking, extremely educated, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran. Let's come over here and let's take a look at this. Is Jewish mystical meditation. And so we have to think in terms of what Rabbi Mimran is trying to do with the different chapters that he's going through. One of them, which I'm thinking about, is that a person has to be able to find a way to remove his thoughts from the constant defensive position that it's in to a more creative position. Because a creative position opens you up to moving the godless to much greater consciousness of God. On the last paragraph, or chapter, he wrote this little blurb at the end. When a person visualizes nothingness, now this is really, really, really deep meditation. It is pushing you way, way away from the defensive position of our minds about arguing back and forth between this or that, or what do I want this, or what I want that, and why did he or she do this, and why do I feel like this, and going on and on and on in your mind. It's possible to come to a state where you can visualize nothingness. That is, that God really is nothing. He is to some degree in touch with the divine within himself. Let's come over to the next part. This is called Section 3, Your Opponent. The Yetzer Hara, also he says, the Yetzer Hara is the same thing as the ego. Now, so Rabbi Mimran has his own way of understanding psychology and the uses of those words. Let's see what he says. If someone identifies totally with thought, this means that his entire sense of self is based on the content and activity of his mind. As such, this person would believe that if he were to stop thinking, he would cease to exist, since his entire existence is based exclusively on his thoughts. The aspect of self that believes this is known as the ego. That is, the ego is your thought. The ego consists of mind activity, and the only way it attains its place in one's life is through constant thinking. It is built upon a mental image that is formed through a person's conditioning, both personal and cultural, as he progresses through life. Now, let me read the last part again. He says, let me get to it again. The ego consists of mind activity, and the only way it maintains its place in one's life, in other words, it should be prominent in your life, is through constant thinking, chewing over everything. It is built upon a mental image that is formed through a person's conditioning, both personal and cultural, as it progresses through life. So you see different things, and as a result of that, you make conclusions. So he says the term ego has been defined in a number of different ways. In this book, we are using it to refer to a false self, one that is created through a person's unconscious identification with his mind. We must realize, however, that it is the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, that lies at the root of this ego. It wants you to get involved only with yourself and energizes it. And there is a vital reason for this. The Borei Olam implanted the Yetzer Hara deliberately within every one of us to ensure that we would always have complete free will. You could either go the way of that or the other way. If you want to reach a higher level, we have to learn how to work with the ego and work beyond it. The ego's interest is in self-preservation. It does not acknowledge the existence of the neshama. As far as the ego is concerned, only the physical/material self matters. Moreover, it is always trying desperately to keep the past alive, for without it, it feels, who am I? So it constantly learns that he who am I is according to the relationships that I've had in the past, the visions that I have of myself in the past, and therefore it gives you a definition. It is constantly projecting itself into the future, for it believes that is the way to ensure its continual survival. What will I do tomorrow? Staying focused on the future also gives it a sort of release from any frustration it may be experiencing currently. Now, what does that mean? A future focus will give it some version of fulfillment to look forward to. One day, it says, after I get through this stage, or when this or that happens, I'm going to be okay, happy, at peace. In this mode of thinking, the present becomes merely a means to an end, and an end that will likely never shift from its comfortable home in the future back into the present, for it lives in a fantasy future that the mind is projecting. Now, in conclusion, he writes like this: the ego consists of mind activity, and the only way it maintains its place in one's life is through constant thinking. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kollel.